All right, guys, today we're going to talk about active transport. Now, remember last time we talked about passive transport, and passive transport was a no energy and a high to a low concentration. And so whenever I want you guys to see the word active, I want you to think of active means I definitely need energy, because if you're a really active person, that means you have or you need a lot of energy. And we can draw the hill again. So remember, here's my hill. And then if I have a ball at point A and I have a ball at point B, well, which one is going to take energy to move? It's going to be ball A, because when ball A goes up the hill, that's going to take more energy on my part, which means active transport is going to go from a low to a high concentration, okay? Now, I have 3 types of active transport. Whoops, let's not circle it. We have 3 types of active transport. My first type, this is called a protein pump. All right, now, protein pumps follow the same rules. Yes, they need energy to work. And yes, they are going to go from a low to a high concentration. So it's not about reaching equilibrium anymore. It's usually because I need to bring stuff into my cell. So even though, like, here's my cell, and maybe you have, let's talk about potassium. So we need potassium to make our muscles work. So let's say you have some potassium in your cell, but you always need more. So every time you guys eat potassium, even though you already have some inside your cell is always going to try to bring in more potassium. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. So going back to my protein pump, we drew our phospholipid a couple times ago. So here's our phospholipids. But now, since I'm having to force things to come inside my cell, I get to use a really, really special structure. And it was this guy. This guy was my protein pump. And what it does is that when, let's say I have something outside my cell. Let's say I have some of these. We'll just call this potassium again. So here's my potassium outside my cell, and I really want to bring it in. So I get to use my energy. Remember, energy is always ATP. So here's my ATP molecule. When he comes up and he gives energy to that phospholipid bilayer, to that protein pump, now, let's draw our phospholipids really quickly. Now, that protein pump is going to open, and all these tiny little potassium molecules are able to flow through. All right, so that's a protein pump. It's taking it from a low, because let's say I have a ton of potassium inside my cells. So I'm going from a low concentration to a high concentration, but now I need energy and able to do so. And when I add energy to this protein pump, so here's my protein pump, when I add energy to him, then he opens and he allows things to come through. So that's my first type. My second type of active transport, this is called endocytosis. All right, so let's do word roots. If I look at the word endo means in, and cytosis means cell. So we always read things backwards. I'm going to have my cell, and I'm going to bring something inside. Now, I'm still going from a low to a high concentration, and because my endocytosis really what it's doing, it's changing the shape of the cell membrane. So it changes shape of the cell membrane. And guys, think about it. If you ever want to change your shape, like gain muscle mass, etc., that means you definitely need a bunch of energy to do so. Now, I have 2 types of endocytosis. The first one is called pinocytosis. And then my next one, this is called phagocytosis. Now, the word pino Pinno, oops, go ahead. Pinno means to drink, and phago means to eat. And really, it just depends on what your cell membrane is doing on how this looks. So let's say I have some molecules outside my cell. And so here's my cell right here. If we want to show pinocytosis, what this looks like is all of my, or here's my cell. So all of these little yellow dots, okay, all this solute is going to start pushing down on that cell membrane. And when he pushes down on that cell membrane, it forms kind of like a little cup, right? Because he's pushing down. And then when he pushes down all the way, then my cell membrane is just going to enclose all those little dots and it brings it inside. So my cell is drinking, okay? I have the solute here on the outside. Then that solute starts to push down. And the more he pushes down, then the cell membrane starts to close around him. And then he forms this on the inside. Okay, so this one, what this makes, this is called a vesicle. Okay, now if I wanted to draw phagocytosis, all right, this is now going to be phago. Here's my cell, and then here are here's all the stuff that I want to bring inside. So instead of that solute pushing down, what happens is my cell membrane, he almost forms like a mouth. And so since he starts to form a mouth, it's like he reaches up and he grabs it. So it's like you're going out and taking a bite of something. And then when he takes that bite of something, he brings it inside, and I still get to form that awesome little vesicle. Either way, your cell membrane is changing shape, and anytime you change shape, that requires energy from your cell. Now, my third type looks exactly like that, except backwards. This is called exocytosis. And exo means to exit. Cytosis, cytosis means cell. And so really, I'm just kind of drawing that picture backwards. Like, here's my cell, here's my vesicle, and it has a bunch of stuff that I need to get rid of. And so that vesicle comes and he starts to fuse with that membrane. And when he fuses with that membrane, then that's going to release all of those particles on the outside. And so I'm just getting rid of it. But because my cell membrane has to change shape to accommodate that, that's an energy requirement, and that's why he's in active transport. So to go back, active transport requires energy. He's always going from low to high. In my three types, I have the protein pump because it requires energy to change shape. And then I have endo and exocytosis because my cell membrane has to change shape to allow, masses of things to come in. All right, I hope that helps.